Thank you for joining us today for our webinar presentation on Solver's corporate performance management that our team here at Crowe has been working with extensively and covering in some of our other earlier webinars around budgeting during uncertainty. Looks like everybody has gotten joined, so I'll go ahead and get started. For those that have not attended a webinar I presented before, I want to introduce myself. My name's Dan Edwards. I'm a CPA and Managing Director here at Crowe. We are a national CPA firm, I believe number 10 or 11 on the list. I can't keep up where it is. There's been some consolidation and acquisitions and things in the CPA industry, so those numbers change quite often. But as you'll see here from my background, while I'm a CPA, I started my career in audit and tax work, but quickly moved over to working in ERP industry, where I've been instrumental in implementations around systems over the past 30 years, primarily focusing around the financial and reporting sides of those implementations. So I've done a lot of work with products like Power BI and some of its predecessors. I've also spent a few years working at some software publishers in the BI industry. So excited to share with you some of my knowledge that I've picked up over the years around corporate performance management, and then show you a great solution that our team here at Crowe is working with. So before I jump into the demo, which is actually what is promised in this presentation, I want to talk about why we're concerned about corporate performance management and why we are looking at using tools like Solver. So, the one thing we've seen over the years, and not only is it a trend in the 2020s, it's been trending this way many years throughout my career, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger because there's more of it. Data is the new gold, right? There's data everywhere, whether it's in our ERP and CRM systems, whether it's in our payroll system, whether it's on the machines on our shop floors. There's data everywhere. And that data is the information we need to understand how to go to market, how to run our organization, how to align our headcount, how to set up our production lines, things like that. We want to get efficiencies. We're all looking to be profitable, right? And continue to grow our organization. So that data is going to provide the KPIs, the measurements that we're going to need to make those decisions. And having a tool like Solver is going to help us get to that information faster and more reliable in a lot of cases. And why do I say more reliable? Because what I've seen over the years is the tool of choice by most people is Excel. Excel spreadsheets for tracking data, for getting data entry, for creating reports. So when we're out there doing planning and we're trying to budget and forecast, we're doing spreadsheets, and we're creating spreadsheets all over the place, and we're linking those spreadsheets together, and we're sharing those spreadsheets, and we're putting comments in those spreadsheets. A tool like Solver kind of helps us tame that. While you'll see it still has a spreadsheet look and feel to it, it's not reliant on the spreadsheets for all of the data and all of the workflow and all of that information together. Then once I've done my planning and I'm on a day-to-day operation, I've got reporting challenges. And many systems out there give us reports. But what if I need reports going across multiple systems? I need to combine my CRM and my payroll data with what's in my ERP system. I want to pull out some web stats, how many people are hitting websites against my CRM data, and how many leads and opportunities I might have. How do I bring all of that together and consolidate it in one location, one interface, so everyone in our organization can easily get those reports? Again, that's where the reporting component of Solver comes in and allows us to bring all that together. And then there's more than reports. We can get buried in reports, and reports can be pages upon pages upon pages. So I need to analyze that data. I want to know my top 5 customers. I want to know my top 10 products, things like that. I want to be able to quickly see that. And that's where a tool like Power BI that I mentioned earlier comes in. And what we'll see as we go through the demo is that Solver and Power BI have a very tight relationship and can work together. And Solver kind of fills some of the plugs, some of the holes you might find with Power BI. There's a lot of work creating data models in Power BI, and you can avoid a lot of that with Solver. So what is Solver? Solver is a single cloud-based solution that automates all of that: reporting, planning, dashboards, the data warehouse. And it brings it together for everybody across your organization. So whether it's the C-level suite, CEO, CFO, all of those individuals can be getting reports dropped in their mailbox or put on a dashboard for them to review. But it can also go down to the management level, and the individual salesperson or the accounting clerk, anything like that, and pulling data from our entire corporate viewpoint. Hence why we call it corporate performance management. It's just not financial performance, it's the entire corporation. So one of the keys to how Solver works is its ability to integrate with those many different systems that you might have in your organization. And that's done through our different Solver connectors. So we can load up different files, but we can also grab data directly from many different ERP systems. You can see there on the list: Acumatica, the Dynamics 365 suite, NetSuite, QuickBooks for QuickBooks Online for those smaller companies, all the way up to SAP by Design for those large clients, Sage Intacct. We can pull in Salesforce, CRM data, things like that make it very easy to gather that data. And then you'll also learn that there is a connector for Power BI. So Power BI can read all that data that you just connected into Solver and bringing that all together. So with that said, I think I've got through the slides here in the first 5 minutes or so. I don't want to bury you with slides. I really want to spend time showing you how Solver works. So we'll jump over and take a look at Solver in action. All right, I've gone ahead and transitioned over here to my browser, get out of PowerPoint. And what you'll see, first of all, is we're in our browser. Solver is a browser-based solution, which works out well. It means wherever you have internet access, whether that's at the office, whether it's in a hotel, sitting at the airport, you have the ability to get into the solution. So you'll see here, once I log in, I'm logged in as my user, Dan Edwards. I'm here in my demo database. You'll see I'm greeted by a home page, and you can see here we kind of have a banner across the top. Solver's got an upcoming customer event here in a couple weeks in San Diego. I'm looking forward to attending that. I'm actually helping with some presentations there. So maybe you're interested in attending. It'd be great to look at that and learn some more about the event. But you'll also see we can start learning how to connect our data. We can go into the academy where they have many online training courses to really help you learn how to work with the tool, a community site to speak to not only those at Solver, but other Solver users, and then also a support portal. If you're having any issues, you need to log a support question, anything like that, you can do that right through the portal. But I don't spend much time on this homepage because it depends really what am I doing in the system. So you'll see over here on the left-hand side, I have those different components that we were talking about. So you'll see I have reporting, followed by planning, and then down here at the bottom, I have the data warehouse. So, the reporting's where we can get in and run our different financial and corporate reports. Planning's where we can do all of our budgeting, and then data is where I'm able to to bring in all the data from my different systems. And then last, there's settings. I'm in as an administrator, so I can come in here and set up different users in administration. You can control those users. So some users may only be able to do reporting, some may only be able to do planning, some may be able to only see the report archive and not run their own reports. You have that control here in administration. So first thing I need to do after getting logged in is actually starting to work with data. Before we can design any reports, we need data to design those reports against. So what you'll see here is Solver comes with kind of an out-of-the-box data warehouse. And if you're familiar with Kimball methodology, you're used to seeing facts and dimensions. Same idea here, but its dimensions are the same, but instead of facts, they're referred to as modules. So those modules are often accounts payable, accounts receivable. We'll spend most of our time here in general ledger, and then they're linked to the various dimensions. So they have that out of the box, but then I need to bring in my data. And that's done here through data integrations. And so you can create these data integrations and you can pull in all kinds of data, whether it's credit card data, payroll data, or data from your different financial systems. You see I have some different integrations written here as well. These could be one-time integrations, or you may set up jobs. So I've got some jobs set up here. I had some issues with a couple of them that failed, but they can be recurring. So that they run on maybe an hourly basis, a nightly basis, whatever is necessary to bring that data over. So, key to remember with a tool like Solver is it's not running real time against your ERP system. It's running against the data warehouse, which is up to date as current as your jobs are run. So let's jump back in here to the integration and show you how simple it is to create that integration. So I went ahead and said I wanted to do new, and you see this marketplace pops up with all the different connectors that I have loaded. This isn't definitely all of them. These are just the ones I have installed. So if I switch it off, you can see a couple more might have popped up in there. But so I have different integrations, and then I have some generic ones like CSV integration and a SQL connector. So those allow me to get all kinds of different data. But I don't have all these different ERP systems. I don't have an Acumatica. I don't have a QuickBooks Online. But I do have a Business Central. So I'm going to go ahead and do a create on Business Central. And I'm going to do kind of a manual build at this point. But I'll talk a little later towards the end on how we can quick start this process. So you can see I just had to authenticate myself, and then it sees my Business Central connection. So now I can come in here and start determining what data I need to pull in from the system. So maybe I need to pull in my chart of accounts. And so I'm going to pull in that chart of accounts from what table inside of Business Central. So I'm going to go out here and look around, and I'm going to pull in the accounts, and I'm going to pull that in as a dimension. And so I'm going to pull that into my object called my Business Central accounts, and I'm going to continue there. And then I simply need to bring over the necessary fields. So I want the account number to come in. I'm not worried about active or alias. And I want the display name is going to be the description. You can even put formulas in here, so I can click on the formula, and I'm just going to put this as a source coming hard-coded from Business Central. And what's nice is I can preview this, so it's connecting right now to my Business Central system, and it's showing me here's the codes, here's the account descriptions, everything's BC. Here's my different account types, my account categories. That all looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. I can put rules. So if I only wanted certain accounts or anything like that to come over, I can build those rules. Once that is done, I can continue. I can create any parameters that are necessary as part of that integration. And then I can go ahead and give this integration a name. So I'm going to just call it BC Accounts. I can give it a description, integrations to load BC Accounts. And then I'm going to publish this and close. And now that it is published, I'll see it here at the bottom. And since I didn't set a schedule, I'm going to go ahead and just run this integration. It should run fairly quickly because I don't have a ton of accounts. And you'll notice there I got a success on that. So I can come out here into my data and take a look at that data, and that's actually a dimension. So I'm going to come out here, and that was in my BC accounts, and I can see it brought over 87 accounts in the BC side of things. So if I want to edit, I could have put in different fields or columns and things in there. So it's brought over 87 accounts. I'm good to go ahead and start working with that data as well. So, I could tie it to different modules, things like that. So that's just an example of how I could do a manual integration. We'll talk more about the quick start after that. So now let's jump back into the reporting component of Solver. So first thing I want to point out is you could do ad hoc reporting. So this ad hoc reporting allows me to really just get at that data on the fly. So, I can come in here, create a sample report, and I just choose which module do I want to work with. So I want to work with General Ledger, and I would like to bring out the account number, the account description, and then I also, want to minimize that. I want to bring out the monthly amount. And so I brought that on, go ahead and refresh. There you go. So I'm able, and you can see here I has a filter on it. So this period this year, maybe I want to grab a different period, or I can even go custom and go back into some of my prior dates. I know I have more data back in 2020, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that and refresh. You can see I can start quickly designing a report, and maybe I want to roll this up by entity. So I can pull the entity on and refresh, and then I'm going to drag the entity up here. So now I can see my different companies. So that's one way you can start just doing some basic analysis in Solver. But where we do most of our work is here in report templates. I'm not going to save what I just did. I'm going to jump over here into report templates. And those report templates, you'll see, can come in from our quick start implementation, but there's many different reports out here. They can be categorized many different ways. So if I can come out here, I want to look at my financial reports. Maybe I want to look at a P&L variance report. So you'll notice across the top, I have what are called report parameters. And those report parameters allow me to make selections, so I could choose a particular period that I want to work with. So maybe I'm going to roll this back to April, and I'm going to go ahead and run that report as of April. So you can see, as a report user, I can come in and make changes. I could choose just a particular department. So maybe I am responsible for just department 300. So I'm again going to go ahead and choose that department number. So I can see that very easily. So I can have many different reports that we can bring together. So those templates are a great way to get started. One thing I want to point out here is if you like a template, but maybe it doesn't exactly meet your needs, you'll notice I can duplicate that. So I can save the original. I always recommend doing that, and then maybe duplicate to have your copy. You can assign those to different categories. So you set up this category tree. So it, again, helps you filter through all the different reports you have. So you can see pretty easy to run a report template that's out there. But, I've been in this industry a long time, and I know that just because I have a bunch of templates out there, I probably don't have the report I want. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how easy it is to create a new report template. So I'm going to just go ahead and choose create new report template. I'm going to use my demo data warehouse here, and I'm going to call this our A demo report. So I'm going to go ahead and create that report. And you'll notice it says now it's opening the report. And what's that? That's the Excel logo. So as I mentioned, Excel's the #1 reporting tool I've seen over my career. And what I really like around Solver is that it uses Excel to be that same reporting element, but it adds a lot to it. So if you look over here on the left-hand side, I see a report designer. I see this report layout. There's actually a ribbon bar across the top. So there's an add-in for Excel that, had I not had it loaded already, Solver would have prompted me to load this so that I could start working and designing this report. So really like this approach because I'm very familiar with Excel. So I'm going to save the first column and row just for any design work I may need to do. So I'm just going to call this a P&L, oops, can't type today, a P&L variance report. So I'm going to go ahead and put a title in. And then this layout editor, this allows me to do more work on those different rows and different columns. So I can do groupings, I can do filtering and things. I can even do it at the sheet level. So here at the sheet level, I can bring some filters on. So it says drag fields into this area to create filters. So over here on the left-hand side is my access to all that data we just loaded through the data warehouse into Solver. So I'm going to do a GL report. So the first thing is I want to filter this report based on whatever period I enter in a parameter. So now I need to code a parameter. Well, I don't know how to write code. I'm an accountant. So you'll notice here's a parameter option. It says create a new parameter. So I'm just going to call that parameter period, choose a period. It's all defaulted in for me. I can just simply say next, 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 finish, OK. And it's created a parameter. I'm also going to, I have different types of transactions in my system. So I want to report just on the main transactions. So I'm going to bring that information over. And then I also want to do this for a certain company. So that's my entity. And again, I'm going to create a parameter for looking up the entity. And I also want to be able to run this report by department. And I'll do the same thing there. I'm going to create a parameter for the department. And one thing I'm going to check, whoops, I'm going to change on that. So you can always get back to your report parameters up here at the top. So I have that department parameter. I want to edit that. And the reason I wanted to edit, I wanted to double check, and it does allow multi-selection. So I want to make sure that I could use multi-selection. So I've got those filters on the report, but I have nothing on the report yet. So I'm going to start by just saying, this is going to be my revenue section of the report. So maybe make that bold. And I'm going to widen this column out because I know some of my account descriptions are a little long. So now I want to pull in not the account number, but the account description. So you see I can drag that on, and I'm going to have multiple accounts under revenue, so that's going to be a group. And so I just made that group selection, and I want a filter. So again, I'm going to drag over a filter and simply go down in here and say I want to count 40010 to 440. Click OK. I can say that we always sort those by account description versus account number. I could pull the account number on there if I wanted to sort that way. So I brought those account numbers on, and then I need to bring on this month's amount. And so I'm going to drag that on. And what I like about Solver is you see this Run tab. As I'm building the report, I can start testing the report. So I'm going to come in here and choose the correct period. So I'm going to run it for April of 21 because I know I have data there. And I'm going to use my corporate US company. And I'm going to use Department 300 because I know they have the sales. So I'm going to run. And I'm getting some dollar amounts there. So 76,499. So, you know, that all looks good for what I wanted to see on that report. So I'm going to come back here to design. Now, I want to make sure I'm only getting my actual numbers, not my budget numbers in that column as well. So let's go ahead and take scenario, and I'm going to put that over the column, and I'm going to make that a selection group, but it's not expanding out because it's only going to be actual. And we're going to go ahead and run. And now you notice those numbers are much smaller, okay, for that period. Actually, one of the accounts, there's no service revenue. So one of those accounts actually disappeared. Now you'll also notice that there's a negative sign in there because my accounting system, those are debits or credits. So to fix that, it's Excel times -1. Now I want to have a budget column as well. So I'm going to drag another scenario out here, make a group, not expanding, and I'm going to go ahead and choose my budget. And then I'm just going to pull that monthly amount in again and run it real quick. See, this is pulling some information I was expecting to see. Sure enough, it is pulling that information. So that looks good. Now I want to put some totals down here, so I can simply go ahead and right mouse click, and I'm just going to create a sum, and it's Excel, so I can use that lovely copy and paste. I can do formatting through here, so maybe I want a top line, and then I want all of these to have a comma with no zeros, and I want all of these to have dollar signs with no zeros. So it's just Excel stuff. So figuring out all the formatting and all of that. What I did figure out is I haven't written the variance formula yet, and my columns are a little narrow. So let's go back out here, highlight these three, and column width of 12. And then, as I mentioned, I have not created the variance column, so that's simply a math formula as well. So now let's see if it looks a little better. Run. So there we go. So I'm seeing I've got some variances, things like that. Now I would like to know what period this report is for. That's not a selection, so I'm going to go ahead and format that as a short date. So that all looks good, but I'm going to take these three columns and I'm going to copy them over here. Because I actually want to have year-to-date information on this side. So you notice when I copied, it brought over the scenario, but I need to use some period functions. So you notice we do have a choice here for several different period functions, many of the typical ones you would expect in financial reporting. And I'm going to just simply say this is year-to-date based on that period I select. So I'm going to do that for column G and for column H. So now, oops, not based on the entity. Make sure you choose the right selection. So now, let's take a look at this. Sure enough, now I have my current period numbers and my year-to-date numbers. And I messed up my date at the top. I'm going to change this back to general. Let's run that. Oh, yeah, there we go. So now it's going to be the 2024. And there's other ways I could pull that period in. So if I expand this, I probably want the actual period end to appear, because that'll give me the full date. Let's double check. Yeah, so that gives me the 4/30/21. That's what I was looking to see. So I can delete that one. Control X, Control V, move that up there, and then maybe I want to put across the top here, current period, and we'll merge that to the center, and year to date, and merge that to the center. And what's nice is I don't need to leave those scenarios, so I can actually spell it out, actual budget, because all of the scenario information is actually in that layout editor. So actual budget. Now, obviously, I'm probably going to add more accounts underneath this because this isn't a full P&L. But for sake of time, I'm probably going to end right here. So this kind of shows you how I could format that report. Now I simply save this. And by saving that pushed that back up to the browser. So if we come back up here, see I have that demo report. Go ahead and open that up and make our selections. So again, if we choose the correct period, so come up here to April of 21 and choose our, and you could have defaults in these lookups. You could limit so it doesn't see everything. So you really have control on what's in those parameters. So sure enough, there's my report. So I could publish this draft. So now it's available for others to work with. So that easy for us to create a new report. Now, I want to start sharing these reports with other users. Now, depending on how I have set up security, other users may be able to see my other report templates. So if I jump out here, I have another user, and I call it my end user. I'm going to clear some notifications I have off from earlier because those are going to come back into play here in a minute. But if I go into report templates, sure enough, they can see that demo report. But some users, you may not want them to run their own reports. You may not want them to come in here because they're going to come in here and they're going to choose, 2023 October, which we're not even at yet, and they're going to run this report for, their department and not understand why when they run that report that it comes back with nothing. Right? Because you haven't closed October of 23 yet. You haven't put in transactions. So in a lot of cases, you may not have all users having report templates. They would just have what we call the report archive. And the report archive, we can push reports out to those users. So I'm going to come out here, back out to my other administrator user, and I'm going to go into Publisher, and I am going to create a job, send demo report, and I'm going to set up that new template that we just did, the demo report, and I'm going to add that out so that it goes out as of that period that we were working with, so April, and it always goes out for this company and Department 300. So I'm going to send it out that way. And who am I going to send it to? So I set all my recipients up here in Solver. So I'm going to send it to myself. And I'm also going to send it to my end user. And I can send it a couple ways. I can email it to them. So I can email it out maybe as a PDF file, but I could also put it in their archive and I could replace other files with that. Now I can load as many templates in this publisher as I want. So, maybe I want to go ahead and send them a departmental report as well. And let's see, scroll down here. We'll send them a P&L analysis monthly. So I can send all those reports out. And then you can set up that this is scheduled. So maybe this runs daily, maybe this runs monthly. You can set all those criteria up. So I want it to run on the last day of every month at 5:55 p.m. So now I can save and run. So it's going to queue this job out and start this job running. Now there's only a couple reports in there. They're pretty small. So we'll give it just a moment to run. And sure enough, 3 reports have been delivered to 2 recipients. So if I jump out here, I think I have some emails. So sure enough, there's my email with those reports that I just sent out. So you can see I had done some earlier testing, but I can see these different reports that have come out. So here's that demo report. So I can see how it came out. And it came out on 2 pages because of how wide I had the report set up. So I probably don't necessarily want to email that one. I want them to use that in their archive. So I'll come back into that other user, the report archives, and I can see here in this user, they're getting alerts that there's a new archived report for them. They come into demo report, they don't have to change anything. That report's right there. Depending again on their options, they can export things like that. So very easy to push this report information out to the users. So just wanted to share all of that and how easy we can create reports and push reports. Let me go back to my administrative user. So that's all done through these publishing jobs. So again, really start automating that process. You're not having to manually send emails. You don't even have to send emails. You could just be sending alerts in essence that things are in the reporting archive. So now let's jump over to the planning side. And I save that for second for a reason, because these input templates are very similar to reporting templates. The difference between the input templates and the reporting templates is, in addition to returning data, they can also write data back to the data warehouse. So again, you can see I can categorize them similar to what I do on financial reports, but I can then do budget entry here. So, I'm going to open up one. We'll move away from finance for a second. Maybe I want to budget by product. So you can see I can come in here and say we're going to sell 4 data warehouses and we're going to have a 30% margin on those. And you can see that starts updating my budget scenario. So I go ahead and actually cancel. I want to save that data. So I can save that data and then it will refresh the report and show what is saved. So it's loading that to my budget scenario. So again, I could be forecasting by customer, by product, or if I jump back in here, I could be forecasting financial information. So this is a nice report I like to use. I've got all the actuals in one column and then all of my budget information, and I can have that budget information calculated on this report. So it could be doing a percent from there, so I could calculate that, but then they could still overwrite those numbers. So they could come in here and say it's going to be 500,000, something like that, and save that data. Now, if I wanted to write a new budget template, it's just like writing an existing budget report. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up one here that's set up to use for the webinar. And you'll see when we run this report, it brings in all that budget information. Maybe I'm going to go choose a different budget scenario. So I'm going to choose a budget scenario that I don't think has any data. Oh, it does have some data in it. Let's see if I can find some blanks here. So we'll run. There we go. So I have no sales data in here. So, I can go ahead and put in 500. What's nice is when we're in Excel, we can copy and paste. And the key here is you have this Save Data button. Where does this Save Data button come from? So I'm going to go back and discard those changes right now. But I'm going to look here on this budget or this monthly amount and look at that layout editor that we looked at in reporting. And what you'll see is there is a budgeting tab. And in that budgeting tab, I'm defining where I'm writing this back to in the data warehouse. So I would design this report as normal. So all the same filtering, so same controls. So if I look here on row 10, I'm looking at account 400,100 and so on. So I can change that. Maybe I want to do some budgeting for intercompany. So just like I would do on a regular report, I can change that. And the only thing I have to learn with budgeting is doing this budgeting tab to write that data back. So now I can go ahead and run this. Should see some new accounts show up. And I didn't save my budget numbers before. So, if I want to go ahead and put in 500 here and maybe copy and paste that. Got to learn how to use Excel. Remember how to use Excel. Copy and paste. I can spread that out. So now I'll save that data. And so all that has been inserted into the new budget. So actually I had it saving to a different budget scenario. So I guess it didn't save in this case. But that's kind of how that works. And you can troubleshoot that. Nothing like troubleshooting on a live demo. So yeah, it's the scenario it was pulling from looks like it was possibly wrong, but that is okay. We're not going to work with this one anymore. So we're going to go ahead and close those off. I had my other report still open, so I'm going to close it off because I want to go back here and just show you how creating a budget could take place. So I've got this budget information out here, and maybe I need to update what we're doing around special events. It's not $468 a month. It is actually going to be spread more seasonally. So I'm going to just go ahead and highlight and delete those cells. And then I'm going to come in here and say, I want to do spreading. And I want to spread $8,000. I want to spread it evenly? No, I want to spread it based on seasonality. So I'm going to go ahead and spread that. So you can see here, 333, 667, 1,000. Now I can make other changes. Maybe I've got some travel expenses. And those travel expenses, I'm going to want to put in more detail than that. I'm going to actually put in that we have the Ascend conference coming up. So I know in August, get over here to the August column, I need $8,000 for that. I've got Sweet World coming up. I think it's in October, so I'm going to put 5,000 for that. And so you can see I can continue to put in additional line detail and then various travel. And on this, I want to just go ahead and spread $5,000 evenly. So I can go ahead and spread that. So, now I can see all of the different travel charges, and you'll notice that it shows that cell is locked because there are line item details. So when an approver is looking at it, they'll be able to drill and see these line item details. So then I simply go ahead and save this information, and then we could move through that process of budgeting and things that we're going through. So very easy for us to move through that. And that budgeting process I'm talking about is through the workflow. So, I can assign different tasks. So if I look out here at the annual budget, you'll see I have all my different parameters selected. I have different reports. I can assign them to different users as we're going through, and then republish this out since this was an existing one. So choose all the different templates, everything that you're doing. And then different users have different assignments, and I can monitor those through the different assignments. So that just kind of gives you a good overview of what we can do with reporting and planning inside of Solver. The last thing I would like to show you is what can be done in Power BI. So I'm just going to jump over here to my Power BI client, and you'll see here's some example of some dashboards that are written against the Solver data. So you'll see I can do all of the charts and graphs and everything that you would expect through Power BI. And again, this is all looking at my Solver data. So how do I do that? I'm just going to come out here to Power BI, and we'll not cheat. I'm going to go ahead and start a new Power BI desktop. And once I have this Power BI desktop, I'm going to be able to get data. So that's kind of where Power BI starts, is by getting data. So it should pop up a screen here for me in just a second. Sure enough, there it is. So I go to Get Data. And with that Get Data, you can see there's many different ways Power BI can get data. But a lot of those you're going to have to kind of build all the relationships, all the facts and dimensions. So we kind of can short circuit that by connecting with Solver. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it wants to know what my URL is for Solver. So I can come back in here to Solver. I'm going to go into my data warehouse, into the configurations, and it's the programming interface, and you can choose what's visible in Power BI or in Tableau. Works with either one. So I'm going to grab that URL, jump back out here to Power BI, and go ahead and paste that in, and you'll see now it's going to make a connection to Solver for me. So again, let's drift away from finance for a minute. I think Power BI works really well with maybe some sales data. So I'm going to pull in my revenue. I'm going to pull in the fiscal periods, pull in my product information, and maybe my customer information. And I'm going to just go ahead and load this from Solver into Power BI. And that connection is there, so as data changes in Solver, you can refresh the data here in Power BI as well. So it's going to take just a few seconds. You can see it's reading through quite a bit of data, over 11,000 records there in my revenue, and it created all of the relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and do a map here real quick, because I want to map out my sales based on zip code. So I'm going to pull in the customer information, and then I want to map out the extended price. So that's going to be the bubble size. So I'll kind of make this a little bigger. And you can see all of my sales are here in North America. And if I hover over, any of these bubbles, I can see the customer. Well, that doesn't give me enough data, but I'm not an expert. Well, maybe I am on Power BI, but maybe I don't know how to write this report. So I'm going to use the Q&A portion here, and I'm going to say I want my top 5 customers. Actually, let's do top 5 products. So it's nice, you can change your mind. We'll do top 5 products, And you'll notice by doing that, Power BI wrote a chart for me. I didn't have to know how to do it. I like that chart, so I can just turn that into a visual. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And let's do top 10 customers. I think I'd mentioned reporting on Power BI that way before. That looks good. It's a little small. I can't see all 10 of them. So let's make it a little bigger. And what's nice is Power BI understands all the relationships. So when I click on a particular customer, you see the chart updated. I can change, the way things interact together as well. So you can change that interaction format. There we go, edit interactions. So I want this to actually filter. So now when I choose a customer, there's their top five products. So we can see how that will change each time as we click through there. So again, very easily to integrate with Power BI and Solver as well. So that kind of wraps up what I wanted to show you for the demo. So let's just go back and do a little bit on a wrap up. So let's summarize what we've seen with Solver and Power BI working together. You can see the combination of those two products really enable you to have faster and better decisions. This slide kind of shows you the different features and functionalities that are available in both solutions. They're both, top BI and CPM solutions. You have the ability to input data for your budget planning through Solver. You can write financial statements, balance sheets, cash flows, P&Ls through Solver. You can design dashboards and interact with natural language query through Power BI, giving you a great mix of both worlds. So from there, I want to go back and talk a little bit more of the data stack. And when we did the data integration where I brought data in from Business Central, I talked about some ways to get that started quickly. And what Solver offers there is what's called the Solver Quick Start and their template marketplace. And what that is designed to do is to quickly pull in your key ERP data into that data warehouse so you can get return on investment in that first day, being able to see your data in Solver. And then you'll expand beyond that, bringing in data from other sources. So how that works is you start off with the Quick Start integration. Now, Quick Start is something you only run once. That's why I wasn't able to give you a live demo of it, as I've already ran through it. But what you do is sign into your ERP system. There's a few different choices. In this case, my screenshots are showing Business Central. You map those accounts out, and then you process the jobs. And by processing those jobs, that pulls that data into the data warehouse in Solver. Then you're able to grab those templates that I was showing you inside of Solver, and you'll pick the ones that you want to install in your environment. Don't forget, you can always duplicate and make changes to fit your environment. And once you bring those in, you're ready to go. You have data in Solver. That data can be connected to Power BI. There's some Power BI dashboards that are part of this quick start as well. So again, in a matter of that mapping exercise can take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes in a lot of cases. Data loading really depends on how much data, how many years we're bringing over, things like that. So typically within one day, you're seeing data in those dashboards. So where can you use Quick Start? It goes against 4 different ERP systems right now: Business Central, Acumatica, Intact, and D365 Finance. And it's in the GL in all of those. Business Central, we also have APAR, sales, and budget data from the ERP system. As you can see, there's some plans in the future to expand that across those other ERP systems. There are several different templates in the marketplace. Over 100 released today, with plans of being over 150 here shortly. In addition, there are also templates for industries. So you can see out on Solver Global's website different industries that they work with, have experience with, and where there have been templates designed for those. So customers are saying these are two of the best solutions available. This is per G2 Crowd, which goes out and surveys existing customers of those solutions, a little different than maybe a Gartner viewpoint. This is really actually just talking to customers versus analysts. And you can see that both Solver and Power BI are leaders in the leader quadrant across all levels, whether mid-market or enterprise. So my call to action for you after watching this is if you'd like to talk a little bit more about Solver or just about your budget and reporting process that you have today, and if you've got some questions on how to possibly improve that, there's several things we have in our offerings here at Crowe. Again, we bring a lot of accounting experience to that. Feel free to click on this URL, tinyurl.com, Crowe Review, and that will get you into a calendaring system to set up an appointment. If you'd like to look deeper into Solver, I've put a URL there as well for you to take a look at. We do have some more webinars that we've either done or are getting ready to do. Feel free to go to our events page on Crowe, where you can see our series on how to budget during uncertainty, or our new upcoming one, how to drive decision making with reports, where we'll look at the reporting process. Again, I want to thank you for taking time to attend and watch this presentation. My name again, Dan Edwards. There's my email address. Feel free to shoot me an email with any questions or to join up with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do try to post some relevant articles out there, but I'd also like just have the connection. We can stay in contact on LinkedIn as well. So again, thank you very much for your time today and hope to be speaking with you soon.